Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Chatting Category Romance. This is a channel that I'm doing in collaboration with Sarah at the Bookish Knitter, where we're talking about category romances. Not just for June, and not just for the summer, but forever. and category romances are the sub-genre of the romance genre that you would probably, if you don't read romances, most immediately associate with romance, just in general. Harlequin romances, for instance. Mills and Boon in the UK. Which not only are formulaic in their own right, so many pages, such and such an account, are very much a pattern to the plot, but also have other formulaic categories. So Harlequin, for instance, will have love-inspired. They will have clean romances. They will have Harlequin intrigue, where there's a gritty plot involved in addition to just romance. They'll have historicals and also category romances where the level of romance, the explicitness of the romance, is stepped up just a bit for those of you who want that sort of thing. And I was inspired by the launching of Chatting Category Romances. Sarah and I are both so happy that we have subscribers for this channel. I was so excited by the beginning of it that I, of course, went to Harlequin's website and ordered a batch of romances for May, new releases, even though there are 80 million of these things that are backstock. You would never run out of these things to talk about even if you never bought another new release as long as you live. And I did the same thing for June, or for May as well. We started in April. I did April, and then I did the same thing for May. And I've talked so far on Chatting Category about 3 of the 4 romances that I got that are May releases from Harlequin. I'm just about ready to get my June releases and do the same thing all over again. But I thought I would finish up with the last of my May releases, which is this, Set Up in the City, by B.J. Daniels, who is an author, a romance author that I like outside of Harlequin. So you have romance authors who will do that. They have careers in the mainstream of the romance genre, but they will go back to category romances because they love telling stories. They've got an audience, and maybe I get the impression that they very much like the editorial home that Harlequin gives them. I get the impression that writing regular category romance for Harlequin is a pretty nice experience. B.J. Daniels is a romance author who, so to speak, doesn't need to do this. She has a mainstream career on her own, but I would read anything that she wrote. She's really, really good at contemporary cowboy romances. That's how I came to know her. And that's what this is. This is the story. I'm noticing here that this imprint, this ink right here, the stamp right there, is actually visible through the cover. For a $7 paperback, that ought not to be true. But the letters are embossed anyway. Her name is embossed. And as you can see from the cover here, this is the story of a small-town lawman who goes to the big city. The small-town lawman is Deputy Willie Colt. And this is a Colt brothers investigation. They're the Colt family. Oh my God, there must be a million of them. They're everywhere. They never get out of bed in the morning without having an emergency. And there are 3 brothers who set up the Colt brothers investigation in Seattle. And that's where this story takes place. Willie Colt has gone to Seattle to sort of take command of a client of an attorney named Eleanor Schaefer, and violence erupts right away, and ensnares him, and that client and Eleanor. And suddenly they realize from the opposite ends of the courtroom that they have a bigger story that they have to figure out, a crime that they have to figure out, with the help of the 3 Colt brothers who are already in town. And you no sooner say the words habeas corpus than Willie and Eleanor are starting to fall in love with each other in the wrangling sort of romantic banter way that we come to expect from contemporary romances, where she says to him, I think on a couple of different occasions, "You're impossible," and I think in both those occasions he says, "Yeah, I know." And I've already talked about Harlequin intrigue this month, and I was pleased by the layered complexity of the non-romance plot. Here, the romance is very much in the front and center of the story. There is a plot. There is an intrigue plot, and it's done fairly well. I wouldn't expect anything else from this author. But the romance is right there front and center. And it gets a little bit handsy. I'll read you a passage here that verges on what I've referred to as romancese. Let's see here. He'd torn down barriers she hadn't even known she'd constructed. He'd brought into question everything about her life and how she had lived it, especially her love life. She'd chosen men like herself, by the law lawyers who didn't have a wild bone in their bodies, men nothing like Willie Colt. He pulled her to her feet, his hands cupping her buttock as he deepened the kiss. Her nipples ached, hard-tipped and yearning for his mouth on them as he let go of her and slowly began to unsnap her western shirt. When the sound of each snap being released, she felt a bolt of heat pierce her center. Goosebumps raced across her skin. She craved the warmth of his big, warm hands, his hard body. She'd never wanted a man like she did this cowboy. Etc., etc. You get 2 scenes like that that I counted in this novel, and if that is worth telling you, because the fish out of water nature of Willie Colt being in the big city, and sooner or later it's going to come down to his instincts as a lawman from lonesome Montana. Is it going to come down to those instincts? You know that it is, and you know that what's going to happen is going to end up with an old-fashioned shootout, even despite the big city setting. And you might be intrigued by those elements. You just have to know, I thought it was worthwhile to tell you that those scenes like that also do occur in this book. And they're fairly tame. They're fairly controlled by contemporary romance standards, but you should still know they're there. The one drawback that I would say to this book, there's snappy dialogue. There's pretty good action, a pretty good, well-constructed intrigue plot. The one thing that I would say against it is that it's intensely predictable. Even by category standards, it's intensely predictable. There's not a single thing that you will guess after page 3 that doesn't end up happening. I don't so much mind that when I'm in the company of an author that I really like. I really like this author, so I wasn't really objecting. But you might want a little more than that. You might want just a little more spark here. This felt there were. I hate to say it about B.J. Daniels, but there were times when chapters went by and I felt, all right, that feels a little like autopilot. And despite those of you who have never read a category romance will probably think, well, don't they all read that way? They don't. They don't at all. They shouldn't. That is bad writing, no matter where you encounter it, whether it's in a Star Trek novel or category romance or a Booker Prize-winning novel. Autopilot is still autopilot. It's still bad because it takes the audience for granted, and no writing should ever do that. But it didn't happen often in this book. So not the best B.J. Daniels novel I've ever read, but still, a fine way to finish up my new releases for the month of May. Now, there's still a week left in May, so I will probably talk about more category romances, but they won't be new releases for May. I only got 4. I'm only going to get 4 for June as well. We'll see what my spinning wheel lands on next, but I'll wrap this up for now for this channel and figure out once again, all over again, how to upload a video to a second channel. Old man problems. But I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.